Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Nate. I also go by Hockey Boy Nate. First off, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come out to my videos. Happy Easter to you all. And I hope you all have an amazing Easter as well as an amazing spring, summer, fall, and winter for years to come. So, I hate to dull the mood down of me starting out the video with all happy and stuff, but today we're going to be talking about the severe weather event as it draws closer and what that means for most areas in the central parts of the U.S. and to the eastern parts of the U.S. Before we get started, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, share this with friends and family, and on social media. Follow me on my social medias, including joining my Discord server down in the link in the description, as well as follow me on Twitch. I do live streams where I play video games every evening, or for the most part, when I'm not live streaming here on YouTube for severe weather events. So if you could please do that all for me, if you could, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, let's take a look at the Storm Prediction Center. This is the website that we look at every single video in the beginning, and here you can see it starts out pretty dull Sunday here today. Thank goodness it is not like what happened last year, last Easter, to where we had that significant tornado outbreak with 138 tornadoes across the board here within the span of 36 hours. And so now, this year, thank the Lord, we have a no severe risk here for Easter. Now, there is one thing that is starting to pique my interest with the Storm Prediction Center, and that is Monday, it starts out marginal. Tuesday, it goes slight. Wednesday, you have a severe risk, which is equivalent to a slight. So now severe weather might be starting to become more into view, and that the Storm Prediction Center is now acknowledging the fact that there will be severe storms and specific risks. So let's get into details with that. Because there's no severe weather here today, we're not going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Monday. Here is Monday. You have two different marginal risks. You have one over central parts of Minnesota into northeastern parts of South Dakota and western parts of Wisconsin, as well as a marginal risk right here. This bit of an anomaly, if you will, here located into parts of the northern panhandle of Texas. So Lubbock, Amarillo, I know I have some viewers who live over there. You guys have the chance for some severe storms on Monday. Hail, a 5% chance of you guys seeing 1 inch or above within 25 miles of a point is likely, but a 5% chance is still relatively small. So if you live in places like Minneapolis, St. Paul, Lubbock, Amarillo, Rochester, you guys are most likely going to see hail within 25 miles of point that's up to 1 inch, but only a 5%, so it's not really too likely, but it's still somewhat likely. Wind is the same thing, same areas impacted, so a 5% chance of you seeing winds over 58 miles per hour within 25 miles of a point. So still somewhat likely, but it's not, it's a marginal risk. It's very small chance for the most part, but compared to some other areas in the United States, it's more likely for you guys to get it than others. And then there's no tornado risk for Monday, according to the Storm Prediction Center as of right now. Personally, I'd have to agree. Even if it was going into tomorrow, you might see a little bit of a risk, but honestly, not enough to warrant a 2% chance for tornadoes. Moving on to day 3. This is where stuff gets a little bit interesting here. You have your slight risk, which is localized into places like central to southeastern parts of Kansas, northeastern parts of Oklahoma, northwestern parts of Arkansas, and southwestern parts of Missouri. So places like Tulsa, Wichita, Springfield, Olathe, don't know how to pronounce that one, so I apologize if I butchered that name. Broken Arrow, you guys could easily see some severe storms in the 2 out of 5 threshold, according to the Storm Prediction Center. Then your marginal extends a bit more into Nebraska, further down south into Oklahoma, like near Oklahoma City. Also further down in Arkansas to places like Fort Smith, moving further east of Springfield, the east of the Springfield, Mississippi area, all the way up into Kansas, or Kansas City, I should say. So if you live over there, you guys have a smaller chance of seeing some severe storms, but still not a 0 chance of seeing severe storms. And then we move on to our day 4 outlook here. This is the event that we've been watching. So this is on Wednesday. We've been talking about this event over Arkansas, the Ozarks for the most part, as well as the event on Thursday as well. Thursday's still looking relatively interesting. So the 15% chance for severe storms, which is an equivalent to a slight, will be localized over practically all of Arkansas into the Texarkana region, the extreme northern parts of Louisiana, like near Shreveport and Monroe, all the way over into places like Jackson and Memphis and Tishomingo and Tupelo. So if you live over there in that general vicinity, you guys could see a pretty decent chance of severe storms on Wednesday. All right, let's take a look at the models here. We're going to be taking a look at the NAM, or the North American model, first, because that actually has the event on Wednesday within reach. So, or at least I believe it does. But regardless, it also has the event on Tuesday, the slight risk within reach. So we might as well take a look at that here. So on Monday here, there isn't really a lot of storms that pop off according to the North American model. Or at least for Monday. Tuesday, you get your severe storms for the most part into places like Kansas, Nebraska, all the way up into Iowa and Minnesota. But you don't see a whole lot of storms that push on through. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But then in the morning into the afternoon hours for Wednesday, you can see that severe storms start to form across the board here into places like Arkansas, all the way up into Missouri. And this is where I actually am kind of concerned about this event a little bit. It's not as extreme as the past ones we've seen over the past month into the mid to latter parts of March. But we still have the chance for some severe storms to move on through into some of these areas. So if you live into places like Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, maybe even Illinois later on in the day for Wednesday, you guys really need to monitor this system with the utmost care, because this could easily become a really strong severe weather event moving on through within your areas. I want to bring up the CAPE real quickly, which is the convective available potential energy. It's the amount of buoyant force in the atmosphere between warm air rising and cold air sinking. And we actually have a bit of a triple point here. A triple point is to where your cold front and your warm front meet, and it's basically where the you can see enhanced level storms in any single event. So right where the warm front and the cold front meet, that is your triple point, to where your dry line moves on through, your cold front is there, your warm front is there. You also have your low pressure system that's creating a lot of wind shear and creating a lot of helicity. So right there in that triple point, you're actually getting some of that. And so places near Omaha, south of Omaha, near Kansas City, I would not be surprised if you guys had some thunderstorms in the late morning to early afternoon, maybe even evening hours that could potentially fire off. Across the board, however, disregarding the triple point, there is some larger amounts of CAPE, especially into places like southern Wisconsin, into northern Illinois, even into parts of Illinois and Indiana. There's also some larger amounts of CAPE here in Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, not as much Alabama actually, but Arkansas, Louisiana, as I mentioned. Some of those areas could really start to see some amplification within these storms. And there's actually some instances where the CAPE numbers actually get to around, or even maybe even above, 2,000 joules per kilogram, which is typically around what you want to see in order to get severe, strong to severe thunderstorms in general. So something to keep in mind with all of that. The wind shear, we'll take a look at the 500 millibar winds, which is the jet stream level. You can see it's relatively strong in these areas. Some can go up to about 60 to 65 knots, maybe even 70 if it amplifies. So this is something to really watch, that this wind shear has met the threshold required for some severe storms. And just a reminder for some of you who might think that this might not be enough wind shear, El Reno, the said largest and strongest tornado, debatable, on record, on recorded history, actually formed in a 45 knot, 500 millibar environment. So that's just something to keep in mind, that strong storms can form off of any wind shear as long as it's above 40 to 45 knots. And that's exactly what we're seeing right here. So all you need is the required energy and the unstable environment to kick these storms off, and that's all you need to set them off completely. I want to take a look at the 850 millibar wind speeds real quickly. That's not what I want to take a look at. There we go. So there is a low-level jet with this system. That is one thing to keep in mind, that this strong low-level jet is going to be amplifying tornadic activity within this area, so I would not be surprised if you saw some spin-ups within a line, or maybe even some thunderstorms that move across the line. But for the most part, honestly, this entire area is a giant wind risk. So if you live over in these areas, you can expect some really strong gusty winds to come off of this event here on Wednesday. So places Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, as I mentioned. Those areas, you guys really need to monitor this event. Let's take a look at the conditions within this event here. I actually want to figure out what each event is kind of like. So Monday, here's Monday evening, which is the reason why there's a severe risk up there. And this sounding isn't all too bad. What I'm doing right now is I'm looking at the atmosphere to which these thunderstorms are going to be in. So on Monday, it looks all right. The hodograph, which determines your spin in the atmosphere and how thunderstorms would look on radar, does not exactly look the best, but it is still curling off to the right, which is indicating some rotation in the sky. Which, by the way, if you are wondering how a hodograph functions, this basically shows you the path in which a weather balloon would be taking if it were to lift off from the ground. So it moves up north, and then it goes east, and then it goes south, and then it goes east again, and then it goes south again. So that's basically what we're looking at from this hodograph here. This over here is your SKU-T chart, which tells you your conditions across the board. So your dotted line right here is the path in which a developing thunderstorm would take. Your red line is your temperature line right here. I know I drew a red line over here, so if you can just ignore that. Your red line right there is your temperature line. Your green line right here is your dew point line. So anything in between your red line and your dotted line right here, that's indicated in your CAPE, or convective available potential energy, which there is about 2,000 joules per kilogram up there, so you could consider some thunderstorms with all of that. Your helicity is okay, but I mean, at the surface to 1 kilometer, it lacks a lot to be desired. You typically would want that to be around 200. It's half that. It's actually at 90, so there's isn't really a whole lot to speak of in regards to this, to the tornadic threat over there. It'll be more or less just a gusty wind, and definitely a hail threat, because the lapse rates, which indicate updraft capabilities, your lapse rates are above 7, which is actually really good. And there's even some areas at 3 to 6 kilometers up in the sky where it's 8.5, and that is extreme. That is some really high lapse rates there. So that is something to keep in mind with this event on Monday. As for what's happening in Texas, just a quick overview. Nothing really is too serious. Doesn't look like there's a tornado threat here, because the hodograph says no. Your lapse rates are pretty high at surface to 3 kilometer, so you might get some surface-based hail, a lot of sporadic hail, if you will. You got decent amounts of CAPE in the 2000s, especially at your surface, so there is most likely going to be a lot of sporadic hail with this. A lot of rain actually. It'd be more or less something to where this isn't going to be a phonogenic day, and it's going to be a bit of a meh day, just by looking at this event here. But storms are going to be moving relatively slow, so I might see some flooding off of this event as well. then we'll take a look here at Tuesday. Widespread event here that's kind of capped. If it wasn't capped, then you would most likely see another tornado outbreak. But luckily, you do have that limiting factor. And how you can find cap on the SKU-T chart is if this red line goes over the dotted line here, this area indicated in between the red line and the dotted line is cap, or convective inhibition. So within that area, there is a lot of capping, and that is kind of limiting the thunderstorm development or sustainability of these thunderstorms, which is a good thing. Very much so a good thing, because if it wasn't there, if there wasn't a cap here, you know, you still have dew points in your 60s, which is all right. You know, you want higher than that, but still, it's in the 60s. It's 59 actually, but it's close enough. Your helicity is really strong. 531 for the inflow. Your surface to 1 kilometer is actually double what you are required, which it's at 422 and you want 200. Your hodograph, this is exactly what you want to see from a hodograph right here, and how it curls off to the right like this. Your critical angle is actually close to 90. It says 104, so it's 14 degrees off. But the closer you get it to 90, the more intense the spin in the atmosphere is. So that is something to keep in mind as well. Your lapse rates are all right. They're in around the 7s. It's at 3 to 6 kilometer, which is around 8, which is pretty good. So for the most part, this sounding is all right, except for the fact that the capping is limiting this entire thing. So that's good news to hear from this thing, because we do not want to experience any of that. Let's see. Something tells me I'm not on the latest one. I'm not on the latest one. Well, time to see the updates then. Iowa, this is on Monday evening into Tuesday. And that's a lot of capping inversion, so Iowa's not really going to be impacted a whole lot. I'm going to take a look back at this event real quickly, and nothing's changed. It's still really capped. So that's the good news for this. I'm going to take a look near the triple point here in Kansas, and it does look like it's a bit elevated, but you can get away with this storm actually forming. So we'll have to see, honestly. If there was any sort of storms that were to form on Tuesday, it'd be central Kansas all the way over into southeastern Kansas. I'm expecting this general vicinity to actually have some storms. But let's take a look at Oklahoma real quickly. Really capped. Really capped. Still really capped. So Oklahoma, I can anticipate this event to not be there for you all. But, geez. This is just really capped across the board. Yep, that still has a lot of capping. And as you get into eastern Kansas, that has a lot of capping as well. So not really a whole lot to say about this system besides the fact that threat starts to diminish as soon as it gets more and more into the overnight and morning hours. But what in the... I gotta save the sounding. Hold up. I'm sorry. I have to download it. I have to download this sounding. This is probably one of the greatest soundings I've ever seen. The sounding is doing scribbles. Look at it. Look at it, guys. Look. It does a... Here, I'm gonna change it to white real quickly. It does a loop-de-loop. And then it does another loop-de-loop. And then the wind speed... They're drawing scribbles. This model is drawing scribbles. Okay, well, besides the fact that that hodograph is losing its mind, and that it... I honestly don't know how to interpret this, besides the fact that it curls off to the right at 0 to 1 kilometers. After that, it does all sorts of things, and... you know, it starts to lose its mind completely. So the funny thing about it is that this sounding isn't capped. It's just maybe a little bit of contamination here at 1 to 3 kilometers. But other than that, I don't know why this thing is as bad as it is. But you know what? It's fine. The lapse rates, surface to 3 kilometers is 6. It's not too good, but just 3 to 6 kilometer lapse rates are 8. which is pretty good. Your dew points are at 61 degrees. Your temperatures are at 63. Your helicity is all right, except for surface to 3 kilometer, which is 116. That lacks a lot to be desired. So, not a strong tornado threat in Iowa and Wisconsin. Maybe Wisconsin has a bit more of a tornado threat. Yeah, it does. Just a bit more, though. But not as strong of a threat as some places near the Ozarks. Let's take a sounding down here. And Skinny Cape, real Skinny Cape, but this hodograph is really good. As a matter of fact, this is a premier hodograph as to how it curls off to the right. Helicity is perfect, 267 at surface to 1 kilometer. Your dew points are at 65, which is really good. Your surface to 3 kilometer lapse rates is 6.5, which is all right, but it still is not 7. Your 3 to 6 kilometer lapse rate is 7.1, so that's a whole lot better. Your Cape starts out from the sounding at 1,650, but it's forecasted to be 2,500, so the energy won't be an issue with that storm or that environment whatsoever. So you most likely will have a pretty decent severe risk from St. Louis all the way down. Into places like Little Rock to northern Louisiana into Mississippi, all the way over into Tennessee and Kentucky, as well as a little bit of southern Illinois, in my honest opinion. Let's take a look at the GFS now. We're going to take a look at what the GFS says about Thursday. Thursday's going to be a bit more crazy. I love how the GFS says that this is a supercell composite of 21. I'm just curious. Yep, still capped, so it's not really changing my mind a whole lot. All right, so here's Thursday, and it's a pretty wide area to where people can get some severe storms. I'm anticipating people all the way from southern West Virginia all the way down into Kentucky to Tennessee, all the way down into Texas, through the Gulf of Mexico, all the way over to the Panhandle of Florida, into Georgia, the Western Carolinas, to maybe even the Central Carolinas. This giant area, besides Arkansas, Texarkana, Shreveport, you guys are basically cut off here. I'll draw a new circle actually. There we go. This entire area could see some severe storms on Thursday to Friday. So let's take a sounding for this event. This is Thursday near Houston, and that is a lot of Cape. Some areas could get in almost to about 3,000 joules per kilogram Cape, which is really good. Your helicity lacks a lot to be desired, so not really a whole lot in the shear department. Your hodograph does curl off to the right, but only after it starts going straight and then curls to the left. So it does have a bit of issues in regards to tornadic development, but one thing I will say for sure is that hail will not be an issue with these storms. Look at these lapse rates. Surface to 3 kilometer is 8.4. That is really strong. And your 3 to 6 kilometer lapse rate is 7. So that is pretty interesting. One more thing that I want to mention here with this sounding is whenever you see a dew point get really dry, where it just spikes out like this is indicative of some large hail that can come from this. So on Thursday, near Houston, north of Houston, you guys could anticipate some large hail. I'd say in upwards of 2 to maybe even 3 inches, maybe larger in some areas if updrafts can get as intense as it does. So really something to monitor with this event. As you start to head further north and east, though, the lapse rates start to drop off a bit. Same with the Cape. Your helicity is getting a bit stronger, I will admit, but with the wind profiles and how it starts to go straight and then curl off to the left before going right, looking like a sickle, it's not exactly the best. So that is the good news from that. And then moving off into the northern parts of Mississippi and Alabama, we'll take some more soundings. The hodograph still does not look as good as it could. Still goes straight and then curls off to the left and right. So something tells me that these rotations are more or less going to be a bit more elevated, if you will, and that they won't exactly come to the ground. We'll check again, northern Georgia, and this photograph looks a whole lot better. This is actually one of the best photographs we've seen for this day, just based off of this model. It curls off to the right, no, does not curl to the left whatsoever. So this is a very good tornadic photograph. Dew points are in the 60s. Helicity is all right. It's still at 120, so it lacks a bit to be desired. Your lapse rates are all right. Surface 3 kilometer is at 7.4, and it is above 7. But the thing of it is that the 3 to 6 kilometer lapse rate is 6.5, so it's all right. It could be better, could be worse. Another thing to note is that these storms are going to be moving at 35 miles per hour to the north and east, so a little bit of chasing, but not a whole lot, honestly. And these storms might actually be photogenic just a bit. So if you guys live in places like Tennessee, Georgia, you guys could see a tornadic risk from this stuff. Maybe northern Alabama, maybe northern Mississippi. Actually, northern Alabama looks pretty good for some tornadic development, but northern Mississippi still looking kind of iffy here. So I'd say the best chance for some tornadic development would have to be, if I were to circle it in red, for a Thursday, would have to be in this area right here. More localized into the blue areas. This would probably be the worst area right here, but still something to keep in mind that that general vicinity on Thursday is where I could anticipate some strong to severe storms, maybe even some tornadoes. Speaking of tornadoes, let's go ahead real quickly. Probably should have done this before, but you know what? It's okay. It's all right. We'll get to it. Let's take a look at the SIPS model. Nice. All right, hazard guidance. We're going to want to take a look at severe reports. This is for Tuesday, I believe. This is the 7th, and the 7th, I believe, is a Tuesday. No. Yes. The 7th is a Wednesday, but 0Z on Wednesday, which means it's 7 o'clock on Tuesday. So I'm okay there. I'm not messed up. There is a pretty strong chance of northern Kansas into Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri to see some severe storms, which I actually kind of agree with. Notice how I said that central to southeastern parts of Kansas could see some severe storms. This actually has it more localized in the central to northern parts of Kansas, which I also kind of agree upon, but I don't know if the energy will get that far north. So I'm more or less localizing this to central to northern Kansas for now. There's also a chance for some severe storms to pop through in Oklahoma, but that is extremely capped, so I'm taking that with a grain of salt. I want to take a look at significant hail, because that easily could be a threat, and there is the chance for some significant hail into some of these areas throughout. A 25% chance within some areas, especially central Kansas, southern Nebraska. There's also a chance, we'll take a look at the wind reports, and yeah, northern Kansas to southern Nebraska, that checks out pretty well, and the chance for tornadoes. Central Nebraska, or not central, southeastern Nebraska seems to be the highest likelihood of some of these areas to get some storms. So that is something to keep in mind within all of these events. And then we're going to want to take a look for Wednesday real quickly, extended analogs. So Wednesday and Thursday, this will have our severe reports here. And you can see there is the chance for some severe weather, especially northern Georgia. This would be from Thursday to Friday. So would not be surprised if you saw some of that. If we take a look at the SIG hail, that will be localized more or less into Texas. I think this is more for the 11th and the 12th, which I would not be surprised. Actually, the 10th looks kind of interesting for Texas and Oklahoma, but we'll get to that in another date, probably tomorrow's video. Chances for tornadoes. Looks to be a bit more stronger into places like northern Alabama, Tennessee, into Georgia, as I mentioned. So that's really something to really watch with all of that. And the significant wind doesn't really seem to be all too strong. So it'll be more or less a wind and a not really a wind, more or less a hail and a tornado threat over the next couple of days, especially over parts of central parts of the U.S., moving through into the Ozarks and to the deep south and the south and east. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, because I do videos like this every single morning. This was a bit of an exception because you can see I'm dressed real nice. I actually went to church this morning to celebrate the Lord rising up on the third day. But please be sure to go ahead, follow me on all social media, join my Discord server, link in the description down below. Follow me on Twitch. I do play video games whenever there isn't any weather going on. So if you want to hang out with me, that would be greatly appreciated. And that's going to be it for me. My name is Nate. I also go by Hockey Boy Nate. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.